Hi, I'm Richard Cook from Bethlehem Tertiary Institute here in Tauranga, BTI. Thanks for having our students. I have been asked by Katarina, who's the practicum coordinator here, to share a little bit about what's happening in the Year 2 class, journeying class during this year. We've come across a new textbook, actually, this one here. And it's brand new out at the end of last year. And I shared a little bit about this with the supervisors at a recent dinner here. And she asked me to speak a little bit about this and record it. So here I am. For many of us who maybe learned cognitive behavioural therapy some years ago, we may have that idea kind of still in our minds that cognitive therapy really has been about changing thinking, thought restructuring, or cognitive restructuring it was called, or thought modification and so on. And that emphasis was there in early cognitive therapy. Once it became cognitive behavioural therapy, it brought more behaviour activations for new ways of thinking, new strategies for living, new ways of feeling about self and life. But what's happened, in my reading of it anyway, in the last probably 10 years or so, you've got people like Donald Meichenbaum, Christine Podesky. These are kind of big names in the cognitive behavioural field. They have become aware, I think, been much more cognizant of the social context of the environment, the culture, the family, even genetics. And cognitive therapy, CBT, now, of course, has a lot of kind of close relatives and different ways of working that are kind of come under a cognitive behavioural umbrella. But certainly their work has become a lot more aware of context, the context of people's lives that help to construct problems as well as strengths and possibilities, of course. And so what we've been trying to do in our program is to help students move from year 1, where the focus is on person-centered skills, not PCT as a therapy, but core skills of connecting, engaging, congruence, immediacy, genuineness, respect, unconditional positive regard, and so on. Then to move into year 2, where they're a bit more intentional and guided by a generally cognitive behavioural approach. CBT, of course, rests on four aspects, 4 key aspects, and we're helping students to explore these. And you'll see these in this diagram here, if the camera can focus on it. Up here, behaviours, thinking, emotions, and bodily sensations. Emotions and bodily sensations, fairly close, of course. Thinking and behaviours. And students are being asked this year, and this as they work their own way through this workbook with something in their own life experience, to think about these 4 kind of cornerstones of CBT, but to think about exploring the way that one thing leads to another, because that's a very CBT idea, that you know, a triggering event can trigger off a way of thinking which leads to a feeling, or it triggers a feeling which leads to a thought, which may lead to a behaviour and to bodily sensations. Or it might be that the first awareness is a bodily sensation and it prompts a behaviour which gets people thinking. So we're wanting students to develop the habit of exploring around these 4 and how one thing leads to another. in the way that the problem works in a person's life, their experience of the problem. But this book and CBT in general has become a lot more aware of constructivist or social constructionist ideas that that in fact we are people in contexts, and so it's become very aware of how the context shapes how we think and how clients think and respond. It's also been affected, I think, by some of the narrative ideas around moving from a problem to something different. And one of the things that we are working with from this book is this idea of moving from the old to the new. That is, that for the old problem, we're helping clients to map that out, perhaps using some variation of this kind of diagram, the same one for the old and problematic patterns, as well as for moving to those patterns that are new and different. So we're wanting students to develop this sense that at base, this work is about getting clear what the old and problematic way of being is, and through exceptions, through what Bateson calls news of difference, through these different moments, how the client might move in a change process towards that which is new and different and preferred. Now, this book is very clear on this. It's got two sections, the old and the new. We're trying to get the students to think of counselling as basically a movement from the old to the new. That it's not essentially about problems, but it's about change. It's about progress or possibilities, moving towards that which is new and different. So that's a really big emphasis this year, and it will be through into semester 2. It's an emphasis in cognitive behavioural therapy now, the sense of a client in a change process towards something where there are new thoughts, new emotions, new bodily sensations, and new behaviours. Those 4 cornerstones, or 4 corners in which 4 aspects of human functioning that we are hoping to help clients to move in one or more of those. So this book, published 2015, students are working through a whole bunch of worksheets, possibly too many actually. It's a very comprehensive book, and we're doing it in a semester, so it's they're moving through it. We're not hoping that they use all of these with clients because there are too many, and we're hoping rather that they pick some of these and even adapt some of these thought records and behavioural activation kind of strategies and smart goal setting and so on, and adapt them, even generate their own little worksheets or journaling activities for working with clients. So this is the text, and this is the focus for this year. And I'll just say a couple of other things that I am emphasising with the students this year, and so that you can perhaps join in that as well. Here's one that was shown up in all the videos that I marked, the first videos for the year. We're trying to encourage the students to not just ask clients what it is they want to talk about, but to try to inquire what do they hope for in talking about it. That is, to get a clearer focus of the purpose for this conversation. Now, of course, some clients don't have a very clear sense of that. But what I'm finding is that many of our students find that the more vague the sense of focus is, the more vague the session is. Not always, but sometimes. And so I'm trying to encourage the students to negotiate and contract for the work so that there's clearly informed consent around a focus. That's been a biggie for this year. The second area that is a bit of a focus in our classes is this one, is the use of self. I'm trying to encourage students to trust and pay attention to some of the things that come up for them when they're in the room with a client. Not that they should vocalize it all, not that they should necessarily use it all, but to be aware of it because of the resource that it can be in our work. We certainly don't want them to make the session all about themselves, but we do want them to do this thing that in the literature is called use of self, to use in the relational development, to use that which arises within them to inform their inquiry, their reflections, their summaries, and so on. So getting a focus, use of self, and then the third and final thing that I'll touch on is that we're wanting them to, not straight away, but to develop goals with clients, a goal at least. Perhaps by the end of the first session, perhaps into the second, but to develop some clarity about a goal or goals. What we found in our research or our program review, it was last year, was that many agencies around the country are being held much more accountable for the outcomes, for having clear goals with clients, and for helping to facilitate movement towards them. And so we feel it's only responsible to have not just good connections, students who have good connections with clients, not just students who have good exploration, but also who have a little more intentionality about the goal setting and facilitation. So those are three kind of emphases then this year: getting a clear focus, use of self, and the development of some clear goals. So you could perhaps help with this in your supervision if you're supervising. Perhaps it's relevant if you're a placement liaison person, a PLP, to have conversations about, particularly around focus and goals, because I'm sure that will relate to agencies as well as to supervision. And so these are potential topics. But also those who are supervising, this focus on moving from the old to the new, new stories, new strategies, new ways of being and living. Your students will understand this because they've been doing it in an aspect of their own life. Well, that's just a brief a summary of some of the foci that are going on in Year 2. So as I said, in Year 1, core connecting and client-centered skills. In Year 2, more of a cognitive behavioural approach, but one that takes context into account and has a clear sense of moving from the old and problematic to the new and different. This sets a foundation for Year 3, where our students in the degree program focus on narrative therapy, which, as you probably know or may know, is all about the problem story moving to a new and different story. So we're hoping that this framework of thinking about counselling will have strategies in Year 2 added to in Year 3, and very much more personalised, of course, in Year 3 as a personal way of working as a beginning practitioner. So that's just kind of a brief overview of our intention. We're wanting graduates who have intentionality, who are theory informed, but not driven by it, who have a very clear ability to connect with self, God, and others, and that their work is characterized by this level of connection, relationality, as I say, theory-informed, intentional practice that is ethical and safe and contributing to the development of well-being. That's, in summary, in a nutshell, that's our program rationale. That's what we're on about. Thanks for being part of it, and bye for now.